Hello, everybody. I was watching some Stanny content, and Stanny, a man with his mind oriented towards content, around content. These are generally the people who can spark, galvanize, manifest new ideas, if you will, for content. And during Stanny's most recent content piece, he said, I would love to see a ScurvyDog hero tier list. And I'm like, you know what? I love the people. I love Stanny, and I'm here to deliver the uh, season 38. Roughly, time wise, patch wise, but associated with 82L. The season 38 ScurvyDog hero tier list. Now, before we get the actual tier list, I need to run over a few things about kind of my approach, my philosophy to the game, if you will. So here is kind of where Scurvy's mind is at. So first things first, and this is gonna kind of add a little more context to the heroes I play and the tier list I'm about to present to you. Is first off, I have the what I endearingly call the meat sack support style. Now, what do I mean by the meat sack support? Basically, when it comes to Dota, I'm very much a very self-made strategist, self-made thinker when it comes to Dota, and I got myself to, I think, like Divine 1 way back in the day in Dota, not looking up any guides, not looking up any YouTube videos, nothing on Dota. I got to Divine 1 playing offlane, I believe, and I hit this really just this wall right at Divine 1. At which point then I started looking up people like Henry Dota on YouTube. I started looking at BSJ videos. I started looking up some of the more teaching, learning oriented minds in the YouTube space. And that's really what kind of instilled new heuristics in my own mind that I was able to apply to my own kind of ideas again that I developed on my own. And one thing that I'm really, really proud about myself at this point in Dota is that I seek out new information. I love hearing new perspectives and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I'm still very core to my own perspectives about what's actually good in the game, what's bad in the game, and I am eager to seek out new information to assimilate into that, but I'm never just going to adopt the meta. I'm never going to adopt exactly what someone else believes. I'm always going to stay true to like my own thoughts about what's good and what's not good. And I say all this because in my journey of kind of in the journey of me finding my own identity as a support main player right now, I've slowly adopted this kind of meat sack support ideology. And basically, the meat sack support ideology is I am going to sacrifice everything I possibly can in the first 9, 10 or so minutes. Sacrifice everything to just ensure my core gets as much gold as humanly possible. And the really funny thing about this is that if you look at my Dota buff, I only win like 50% of my lanes. Sometimes even it goes down like 45% of my lanes, just like in pubs. But I think that's a really bad metric for like determining who wins a lane. Because in my opinion, the winner of a lane, like two players first two players in the side lane, the winner of the lane is whichever core has more gold. I place zero value in how much gold the supports have. So what you'll often see in my pubs is the enemy core will come out of the first 10 minutes with 1,500 more gold than me. But my core will have 2,000 more gold than the enemy core. And for me, that's a win, even though some of the websites like Dota Bruff Strats will be, oh, the lane was a draw because they look at the net worth of both. I don't give a hoot about my net worth. I am looking for ways. I'm eager to find ways to sacrifice everything, literally everything, to just ensure my core gets as much gold in the first 10 minutes. So that's why you'll see me start with all region. I'll I mean, I'll run around at minute 15 with brown boots if, it's a bad game for me, but that's this meat stack support kind of play style. Another thing is that I think this is a very pub oriented perspective, but I really value heroes with good just lockdown and stuns because when I play, well, let me write this out here. Lockdown slash stuns are a big plus plus. And this is because when I play pubs, I love Ancient Apparition. I love Undying, but Undying is kind of a special case in this sense. But let's look at this Ancient Apparition. I love Ancient Apparition. I would play Ancient Apparition more than I do, but here's the thing about Ancient Apparition. Beyond this Ancient Apparition having a relatively just weak laning stage. I pick Ancient Apparition in pubs, excited to play Dota, excited to play Ancient Apparition. And then the rest of my teammates pick heroes, it'll be like a Venomancer, Phantom Assassin, like maybe like a, I don't know. The point I'm trying to get is like literally no one will pick a stun, right? And even though I have great opportunities to deal a lot of damage as the Ancient Apparition, I have a really robust toolkit as Ancient Apparition. Ultimately, I find my pubs, and obviously the pubs is where I encounter the most Dota stimuli, right? Because obviously you're going to play more Cubs in like, competitive like league games. If I don't pick and prioritize these heroes with stuns in the first phase where I pick my hero, no one else will pick stuns, and it's just an insta loss. So I feel in pubs I'm really pigeonholed into picking these more stun heroes. So there's that, and I think the last thing I think about, and I think perhaps if you want to, when it comes to like 82L, that's a big one. That's a big one. And this is still a point, but it's kind of a minor point. I guess it's more of like a pub perspective. But my last point here is how much can I do? What kind of impact can I have with literally 0 gold? I guess these could be kind of a combo point, but this last point that I look at is like the possible impact on 0 net worth. And basically, like if I have literally brown boots and a spare tango at 15 minutes, how much support am I going to, or if I have brown boots and a single tango 15 minutes in the game, how much impact am I going to be able to have essentially? So with kind of my perspective of like what I value in supports kind of laid out here, let's now go to here, look at the heroes. I'm going to be starting from the bottom, then I'll finish an S tier. Anyway, so the first tier unveiled. I guess you kind of saw Io there, but this is the cringe tier. Do not expect anything from me. So these are quite frankly heroes that I don't think are bad. These are just heroes I don't play. I actually think Oracle might be the strongest hero in Dota right now. Unfortunately, I just don't play him. And I honestly wish I did. But despite me thinking Oracle is the most powerful hero in the game right now, and, maybe if you want to criticize that, I would, maybe I'm a little wavering on that perspective, but I will come out and say I think he's the most powerful support in the game by a pretty sizable margin. And I would try and practice him more, play with him more, but he runs into the same issue when it comes to this point right here, lockdown, stuns, plus. He just doesn't have good lockdown. He has his Q, but beyond the Q, it's not a stun. I guess it dispels, but it's just the root. I just don't feel like he doesn't have a lockdown for me to really justify being able to like pick him in pubs. To really practice and get better with him, because that's a hero that I would really like to learn, really like to get better on. But he's just not a good pub hero, despite I think he is the best support in like organized like A2L games, league games, if that makes sense. But none of these heroes are literally none of these heroes are heroes that I play. Um, and that's the bottom line. I think all these heroes are good in their own right, but I just don't play them. So people ask me to play them. I don't play them. So if you do pick those for me, do not expect anything. Zilch. Whoopsie. All right. Now we go on to the heroes, I guess kind of C tier, but heroes I can play as long as it isn't an awful game for them. These are all heroes that are just like kind of your archetypal support heroes for the most part. You got your Rasta, Venomancer, Dazzle. Uh, I think a Pause 4 Viper can be kind of nasty sometimes. I think Pause 4 Gyrocopter can be really good some games. Centaur War Runner is a meme, but I think the Wagon Rush is absolutely hysterical, but I'd say the hero I'm probably the best at on this tier list is the Skywrath Mage. I've messed around with him quite a bit. Especially I get these psyches, these spans in the time that I play where I like playing 4 way more than 5, and Skywrath is one of the go-to 4s that I go to. Um, but yeah, these are just heroes that I think have a role. These would probably be higher on my tier list if I just enjoyed playing them more. But I feel like some of the heroes higher on my tier list do what these heroes do, but I'm just more comfortable and I'm just better at them. Now, this next tier, I think, I kind of skimmed through these first 2 tiers. This next tier, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on, give a little more context, if you will, to why I think these heroes are here and kind of my relationship with said heroes. And that is the heroes I can play most games. These are like my B tier heroes, if you will. So, going down the list here. Vengeful Spirit. I love Vengeful Spirit. A lot of potential as a support, I think. Just hard to position and hard to have extended impact. If all my team needs is a swap or a BKB piercing interrupt, I will go Venge every day. I'll swap myself to counter the black hole, swap a core out of Chronosphere. If that's all my team needs to win fights, Venge is a great hero. I think it's really difficult to play Vengeful Spirit because positioning with her is borderline impossible. Swap at low levels is low range. Magic missile at all levels, extremely short range. You need gold on this hero, but it's not a hero that can survive in fights very well. It's not a hero that farms, and ultimately, unless you're very good at finding out and kind of figuring out who has damage and pairing yourself with who has damage on your team, like you need damage around this hero. And it's hard to play in pubs and oftentimes hard to fit into just drafts in general. Marcy, I played a ton of Marcy when Marcy was good. I might even drop Marcy if I'm being honest. I think I'm a good Marcy player. It's just not a patch for Marcy support, so I'm actually gonna drop Marcy down there. I played a ton of Marcy when Marcy was good, and it's just not her time anymore. Like you have to play the support by leaping in and just absolutely just going in guns blazing, but it forces you to do this BKB rush on a hero that can't farm. So you have to take multiple good fights to farm a BKB just to continue to have more good fights. But in my meat sack support playstyle, I'm never getting that BKB. The hero just feels awful as of right now. Disruptor, I love Disruptor. I think Axon Disruptor is insane. Disruptor just doesn't have good lockdown, so you have to have lockdown on a team to pick Disruptor. And most of the time, I am the lockdown for a team if I'm not playing Undying, but I think it's a great hero. Grimstroke, I think, is underrated. I think the control he offers with his ult, because like people look at his ult, it's all about the double spell. I think the control the ult offers is really, really good, and that's pretty underrated. And if you pair this here with like a Lich or something, there's a lot of potential. Speaking of Lich, I really, really like Lich, man. But if they changed the AI of his Lich bounces, like I think they did an AI change to Coconuts where it doesn't like guarantee the coconuts bounce on heroes, but I think there is some kind of percentage where it does prefer to bounce on the heroes and creeps. If they did the same thing with Lich, I would pick Lich a whole lot more. But the bounces are so fickle, and it makes his ultimate ability literally dog trash. Literally, completely, and utterly dog trash. And I hate it, because I would love to pick this hero more, enjoy this hero more. But the fickle nature of his ultimate makes this hero dog trash. Well, the hero's a dog trash. Because Arctic armor is still good. He still has a very good laning phase. But the hero would be probably in my personal S tier if they just made small tweaks to balances. If they cut the amount of balances and made it prioritize heroes. If they did the thing with Witch Doctor Coconuts, where the bounces at least prefer to bounce onto heroes. If there's a small change in the behavior of the ultimate, he'd be a lot higher for me. But as of right now, I will see three enemy heroes grouped together, just stacked on top of each other, and literally bounce to a creep wave. Then the creep waves will run the opposite direction because I ran the opposite direction. They're aggro onto me, and it'll just bounce on the creep wave. I'm like, oh well, that was literally the game-turning fight, and now it means nothing. Shadow Demon, I love this hero. I think the disruption, these hard saves are so valuable. They've always been valuable, but even more like this patch. Just does no damage. You have to have damage alongside Shadow Demon, and I noticed that a lot of the teams that I play for, I need to pick stuns and damage, which makes Jakiro a really, really good option. But if my team doesn't need damage or stuns, Shadow Demon is a blast to play. I think he's a really good hero. I just don't pick him enough for him to be in the next tier up. Silencer has his utility. I think Dr. Epic is a way better Silencer player than I am. But I think I'm good at pressing the global silence at good times, but I think oftentimes Silencer struggles to really have impact in fights beyond the global silence. I think you need more out of the hero than just the global silence most of the time. Like if it's just an Enigma, I don't think Silencer is good enough just to counter an Enigma. I think they need like a Faceless Void, Tidehunter, Enigma, Snapfire just for the global silence to be really worth like sacrificing an entire hero pick just for that global. Despite everyone thinking me as a undying Jakiro player, my most played hero is Pudge. I love this hero. I love-hate relationship. Love this hero. Play him all the time in pubs. I get so pissed off because when they changed the hook hitbox, it was like 2 years ago, maybe even 2.5 years ago, they did nerf the actual avatar hitbox of the relationship between Pudge's hook and heroes, and I was so tuned on the old hitbox regarding like the minute angles where I would throw my hooks out. I get so triggered when I play this hero, but despite that, I keep going back. It's like an unhealthy relationship. I think Pudge is better as a support, even a 5 that people give him credit for, but so much of this hero comes down to knowing when to throw hooks, either hit enemies or save allies. Not only the knowing when to save an ally or hit an enemy, but just reliably hitting those. If you hit 80% of your hooks, if you hit 80% of your intended hook targets in a game, I think this hero's like S tier, POS 5 and POS 4. But obviously landing hooks that consistently is very difficult, and even despite me having probably 1,400 games on this hero, sometimes I can do that, sometimes I can't. Zeus was actually, in my opinion, one of the most underrated heroes in the game, like 2-letter patch or 2-number patches ago, but they changed Zeus where his base mana multiplier went from a 0.5 to 0. That annihilated this hero, because with that base 0.5 mana multiplier, you could buy a Void Stone and have I would go Basilius Void Stone, and you'd have like pretty good mana region where it didn't feel bad. When that base mana multiplier went from 0.5 to 0, absolutely nuked, blitzragged this ability here to be played as a support. I think there was even another nerf that made it to where I guess the shard changed to him. I don't think this hero is viable as a support anymore. Like, you could pick him for fun, but that's not viable as a support anymore. But he's in this tier just because I have played him a lot with a lot of success. He was actually my most successful support during that patch where his base mana multiplier was 0.5. I think I had like an 80% win rate with him in like Immortal 2000 pubs. Like, people would like meme and like shit on me like during the pick phase when I pick him 4, and then I would literally take over the game and do the most damage every game. Insane. Spirit Breaker. He's one of the best heroes at just offering consistent control in the entire game. Just doesn't really provide a lot of damage early on, and when an enemy like Han picks Death Prophet and you need damage skill Death Prophet, Spirit Breaker just does not offer the damage to like burst a Death Prophet through Spirit Siphon. Abaddon, I think he is a budget Omni Knight. He does everything Omni Knight does, but I think Omni Knight in general does it better unless you really just need a support, a pause 5 that needs to run in and like scout ahead. Abaddon obviously does that better than Omni Knight, but yeah, I think there's niche opportunities that Abaddon is better than Omni, but I think Omni in general is a better hero. I play a lot of Snapfire. I could play Snapfire. I could play her most games. Good hero. Better as a core this patch. That's all there really is to it. I love support Enigma, man. So much fun. Is it a meme? Yes. Can I go to the Eidolon build? Yes. Do I prefer to go the no micro Max Malefice Midnight Pulse support Enigma? Yes, I do. But I could play him most games. Even with a silencer, I think I am really good at like landing black holes as impactful as they can be, but yeah. There's just better heroes in the support role. I've been playing a lot more Crystal Maiden. However, I think Crystal Maiden has a lot of issues. Positioning is insanely important pre-level 6 and post-level 6. Pre-level 6 because your cast range on Frostbite isn't very high, but it is a very long route. But if you get gone on, if they're like a bounty hunter or something like that, you have to be very aware of like, oh, where they're in this here so they can't blow me up. But here's my main issue with Crystal Maiden. I think the ultimate is such a big kit, such a big part of the kit for this hero. You have to find ways to like make the snowstorm have impact, but many games that is extremely difficult. And then you'll find this dichotomy of, do I build aura items to just buff up the rest of my team, or do I go like this BKB, Blink, Bongo Boots to like have impact with my ultimate? There's a lot of item diversity in this hero, but I think the hero is so split between like being this 5 where you just want to provide the aura. Oh my god, hold on.
Our summer.
What the
starts now.
fuck is going on? Holy cow, I have no idea what in the world that was. My apologies. I think I was paused on Stanny's content for so long that a random ad played. So, yeah, anyway, wow, completely disrupted my train of thought. But Crystal Maiden's too split, and the fact you want to just build her as a 5, where you're just playing this meat sack support, where you're basically just a walking Arcane Brilliance bot, or are you going to try and get a Blink Dagger BKB and itemize around your ultimate? It pulls her in too many different directions where the goal just isn't going to exist on this hero. Warlock, I love this hero. But you need more consistent lockdown in most cases. I think there are times where all your team needs is insane sustainability. Warlock will give you that insane sustainability. He will provide a long-range BKB piercing interrupt. There are niche cases for Warlock where I will pick Warlock no matter what, but ultimately Warlock is not a 5/8 or 6/7 hero. He's a second phase hero, and I normally pick my heroes in the first phase. So I think Warlock is good. He's just not first phaseable, which makes it so I don't play him. And lastly, Witch Doctor. Kind of the same issue where like you'd really like to build in your ult more, but I think not playing around the Witch Doctor ultimate isn't as crippling as not having a good game for a Crystal Maiden ult, but I think the coconuts can be a little inconsistent. At least it's not your big ticket ultimate with a long cooldown, but I think it's good in some cases, but I think there is better stuns out there in general. But now we get up to the upper echelon of my heroes. So we now go to first or second pick heroes / heroes I can play into hard counters. Ancient Apparition, I love this hero. Level 30, one of my most played heroes. I love this hero so much. I try and shoehorn this hero into games where I should be playing this hero, but my god, do I love this hero. The biggest issue is great damage, phenomenal utility in my opinion. Just if you don't have lockdown to pair, lockdown is so important. Let alone does lockdown synergize just with the icy feet alone. As a hero that involves so much around you hitting, you need to land ultimates on Ancient Apparition. And landing ultimates involves a lot of skill, a lot of precision, a lot of experience. And good Ancient Apparition players can land the ultimates that they need to land without good lockdown. But if your team has good lockdown, it's so much easier to predict where the heroes will be in relationship to when your blast will land. I think this hero is phenomenal as like a second pick phase pick. Unfortunately, I personally first phase my heroes most of the time, which makes Ancient Apparition just a hero that I can't really go for as often as I would like. Ogre Magi. I think this hero is underrated. I think the Bloodlust plus a Solar Crest, and you just pump that shit on a Medusa. I think this hero pairs so well with Medusa because there's so many buffs. Like there's like the Omni-Knight buff where like you could throw the Omni-Knight buff on a Medusa, you could give her more strength, but like literally Medusa doesn't even give a crap about the extra life you're giving her. It's all about the mana shield. I feel like there's a lot of buffs in the game, like a mechanism and stuff like that. Well, yeah, mechanism, not Guardian Grease, but a mechanism where like you could build these buff items, these buffing items, these aura items to kind of empower your big ticket cores, but like if you have a hero like Medusa, a lot of these heroes don't really benefit Medusa. But Ogre Magi, the Bloodlust, Medusa loves that. Then you could buy a Solar Crest, throw that on Medusa. You could hyper power these hyper carries out the yin yang, and you get really good damage with Ignite. You get phenomenal point and click lockdown with Fire Blast. People meme me for picking this hero, but I love this hero. I think this hero is rather underrated for the most part because it's hard to not have a good lane with this hero. I used to play this support Dawnbreaker all the time, but unfortunately this is not the patch for support Dawnbreaker. I have tried to play her so often, try to make it work, and the issue with is that in the previous number patch, I could just rush aura items, not build into my ultimate. I could skip the Holy Locket. I could skip the Aghanim Scepter. I could literally not worry about the save element of my ultimate. Just use the ultimate as just a vehicle to get to where my team is as I split push and whatnot. And I land, I drop the Wraith Pact, I drop the Pipe, I pop the Guardian Greaves, and that's all the impact. That's all I needed out of this hero, right? But I think Wraith Pact getting removed from the game really hurt this hero to where, like, just dropping out of the sky and dumping auras just isn't good enough anymore without that Wraith Pact existing. So it kind of shoehorns you into like going this Holy Locket Aghanim Scepter as a support. But if you, I think if you play this hero entirely around the save and no other utility, there will come a point where the enemy heroes can basically burst through the save, and then you literally just have a melee creep on your team that's completely and utterly worthless. So I can play in the hard counters, but this just, I mean, I play this hero a ton. I think I'm one of the best Dawnbreaker support players out there. It's just not a good patch for it. And Clockwork, first phased, I think, in the recent like pro tournaments, but I love Clockwork. One of the most fun supports to play, but the issue with Clockwork is that he is a great pick in a lot of games, but Clockwork is hyper hard countered by like probably 2/5 of all the Dota heroes. 2/5 of all Dota heroes just hyper counter this hero to where that makes this hero borderline unplayable. Like If you go against a Lycan in lane, hero is dog shit. If you go against an Enigma in lane, hero is dog shit. Like Mirana, if there's a Mirana core on the enemy team, this hero is dog shit. Like, there's so many heroes that just hyper hard counter this dude. It just, if it's a good clock game, it's a good clock game. But kind of going back to this theme that I feel like you might be picking up on, not a hero that could be first phased well, in my personal opinion. I like to first phase my heroes in my drafts, which just makes it where I can't really play Clockwork as much as I would like to. But last but not least, my S tier heroes, or what I call, when I play these heroes, I literally have no counters. And that's just the fact of it is. I mean, for the last, at least the last, I mean, I've played at least 3 seasons of AD2L, but the last 2 seasons, I just pick these 3 heroes and I win. And that's why I'm not really too worried about like showing this full tier list of mine, because the heroes I pick aren't no secret and I win. So until the opponents figure out how to deal with these heroes, I'm just gonna keep on picking them. But going in detail, I think Omni is a really good hero, but I think he is succumbing to just issues with this patch. I think he can have good lanes, but he can't guarantee a good lane like the Undying can. He's a good laner, but he just can't guarantee that good lane. And he doesn't have that lockdown. He doesn't have a lot of damage. So if your team has damage and lockdown covered and you just need some sustain and save, Omni, I think I love this hero. Phenomenal hero. If it's a good Omni game, I will pick this hero into 5 hard counters and I will literally have impact. Not just like scoot by. I will have impact on this hero. But I think the hero has to fit into my team's draft for it to work. I don't care about what the enemy heroes pick. It just needs to have a role in my team's draft. And I just think that these 2 heroes are better first phased. Undying goes against a lot of what I've said earlier about this value on lockdowns. Especially like these BKB piercing disables and whatnot. But here's the big difference with Undying, is that Undying is one of the most oppressive laners in the game. Basically, I pick this hero, and I could pick the greediest pause 1 or the greediest pause 3 in the world, and I literally do not care what the enemies pick. That core will get more farm than the enemy core, period, end of discussion, no matter what. And basically, I think this hero falls off a cliff. It's more so in the past. I think the Tombstone save really helps carry this hero into later phases of the game now. But I still think he falls off a ton, and he starts really relying on that Tombstone save later in the game. But the value of this hero is you can just pick any greedy bullcrap you want to pick, and I will guarantee that my core gets more farm than the enemy core, and there's nothing the enemy team can do about it. But unfortunately, that hero is banned a lot, so then I go with the Jakiro. And what do I like about the Jakiro? A AoE stun that takes a lot of prowess and skill to land and consciousness to execute well. But when you have 1,000 games on Jakiro, you can do that. A wave clearing ability where you can just absolutely just mow down waves. If you get an Aetherlands, you can even like have good high ground defense with just the dual breath, not even including Macro Pyre. You have good tower push if you max or get points of liquid fire. That's just more and more tower push available to you. If you want to end games, if you're pubbing and the Huskar breaks his items and you just want to end the game as fast as possible, you can end the game really fast by maxing your liquid fire really fast. I think you really need the Dragonlance if you really want the Jakiro to be a part of the push composition on the team. I think with the low attack range, without the Dragonlance and the talent, it's suicide to walk in and just Molten Breath the towers, but kind of does everything you want. And then at the end of the day, this Macro Pyre, kind of like the Ice Path, high prowess, high skill shot, but if you're good at landing it, it is the only damage ability that your team needs. And I just picked this hero because one of these heroes where, I mean, just like what this tier says, when I play these heroes, I literally have no counters. And unlike the Omni Knight, I could shoehorn the Undying, the Jakiro into most drafts. I think my draft has to need an Omni Knight for me to pick Omni Knight, whereas the other two I can just shoehorn into literally anything, and it's going to be a good game for me. Um, but yeah, so that's my tier list. Um, this is kind of my thought process and approach to supporting, and that's kind of all the secrets of ScurvyDog. I'm Immortal 1200 now. I am losing a lot of my pubs. I'm not kind of in that state of Dota Clairvoyance right now, but when I was in that state of Dota Clairvoyance, I found myself at Immortal 300, and I think if I just take a little more time to reflect, and kind of find my groove again, enter that state of extended Dota Clairvoyance again, I know I'll have no problem finding myself right down to Immortal 300 once again. But thank you, Stanny, for um, suggesting this. Thank you for being interested, and I hope my opponents find value in this, and I hope anyone else watching this also finds value in this. If you just want to know what a Immortal support player thinks like.